And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series.
Watson, touchdown! Hunter Renfrow.
He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Chattanooga baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Tuesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes not just cases, MotleyRice.com, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at StokesVW.com. Make sure you've downloaded the app, the JB and Goldwater app. It's free, and you can pop in there. You can comment, you can watch, you can listen to all those fun things. You can also check out our preferred partners like Palmetto Group Insurance, owned by my dear buddy, Mr. Jamie Richardson. He's a hell of a guy just because of his name. And I can tell you that he can also do what you need very, very well in the insurance industry. PalmettoGroupInsurance.com. If you open the app, you'll see our top prospects. Bam, right there, the logo. It's a blue circle. You'll see it. So if you're in the insurance market right now, probably want to call Jamie. He's located in the low country, but he can help you out anywhere. PalmettoGroupInsurance.com, right there in the top prospects in our app. Make sure that you're chiming in on the Share Healthcare chat lines as Adam and Craig are. Craig, I see you. You just finished the podcast with Marcus Lattimore and Mike Yuva. Mike will be here in just a few minutes, and we're going to talk about some of that. And yes, they've done a nice job with that series thus far, and they'll continue to do a nice job. So looking forward to catching up with Mike on hoops, football, and baseball. We've got Keith Allsep as well in the 1 o'clock hour. Certainly looking forward to getting him in. Some news out of Athens, Georgia. How will that impact? Could it impact the scenario at South Carolina in men's basketball? We'll see. Could baseball cancel more games? You betcha. We'll talk about that in a little while. A wild story out of the NFL as well. Make sure you follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater for more. But Darren, the word wild doesn't begin to describe what happened at the end of the SoCon championship last night. You don't have to be a Furman fan to feel bad for Furman, because that was crushing to see what the ball go in the hoop. I mean, clearly, if you're just a fan of basketball, it was amazing. If you're a Chattanooga fan, you're over the moon. But you could feel it. You could feel that. That was tough.
You could feel it, but you could also sense the building up of that moment happening as the game was going through overtime. I mean, it was a wild sequence both ways, really, in overtime in particular, and then at the end of the game as well, with the score being at 3 and no foul, and then getting to overtime on some weird shot, and then the layup with 4 seconds left, followed by the half quarter or almost half quarter by Jean Baptiste. And I'll put this in a different perspective. Yes, if you're a Furman fan, that stinks, man. You haven't been to the tournament in almost 40 years, 42 if you want to be exact.
1980, right?
Yeah, 80. But here's a really cool story. Jean Baptiste, who hit that shot, has been with the Mocs longer than all but 2 current coaches in the Southern Conference. He is a 6th-year guy, redshirt and COVID year. 6th-year guy.
Good point.
So he's been building for this. He was a recruit the last time Chattanooga won the tournament in 2016. He got to campus the following year. Here's where your heartstrings chills. That 2016 team was partially led by one of the best three-point shooters in Chattanooga history, Eric Robertson. Mm-hmm. Robertson passed away unexpectedly yesterday afternoon.
Oh,
You want
God.
to tell me that Robertson did not have a hand in a 3-point heave, his specialty, falling through for a guy who was a recruit the last time they won the tournament when Robertson helped them win the tournament? I don't know. You're not going to be able to convince me that he didn't have a hand in that. Thoughts with the family, thoughts with the Mox family. There was good and bad yesterday, but it culminates in a win, in an NCAA championship, and a lot of good stories, heartstrings and all, tied in together right there.
I didn't know anything about that. What happened?
I don't know if I'm necessarily allowed to say. I do know what happened. It was unexpected. And
Is it not? It's not public?
I don't believe it's public. It's public that Robertson has passed away. I didn't hear about it until this morning. So I'm not going to say it was an unexpected thing. But unless, just to make sure everyone who needs to know before I knows, they can find that. But it was yesterday afternoon. He had, like I said, finished his career in 2016 with that tournament championship. So Jean-Baptiste got to campus. He was a recruit for that, got to campus the following year. So it's not like Robertson had too many tight friendships within that team. But Robertson is one of, and you can scroll through Twitter and see it. I remember calling his games with a smile on, always. I mean, a smile as big as my face. That's the guy he was. John Schulman was his coach, tweeted out how caring he was. That type of a guy, along with good basketball player. So it's,
Wow.
it's tough to get that news. But as soon as I heard that news, I was talking with a Chattanooga buddy. That was the first thing I said. I said, you can't convince me that he didn't help that shot go through. It just doesn't make sense in my head that he didn't have a hand in that shot.
Oh, there's no question. Well, I mean, that brings an entirely different angle and conversation to be had about it. I mean, it was incredible in itself, but had no idea about any of that. So I'm certainly going to keep my ears open and my eyes tuned into additional details on that. I'm very interested now to hear what happened, but wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations to Chattanooga. That was unbelievable. After Furman laid it in, I thought, wow, this is it. They're going to be, at this point in time, the lone representative from the Palmetto State in the dance, and they are not. As a matter of fact, Darren, there might not be any this year. We'll have to see what happens with Clemson and Carolina, of course. In the last 10 years, 11 tickets have been punched from the Palmetto State. That's it. Just 11 since the 2013 team season. It could be more. Again, if either Clemson or South Carolina lucks up and makes some drastic run through the tournament, but not likely. And this would be the third time in the last 10 years that no teams from the Palmetto State are on the dance floor. 2016 and 2013. Interesting enough, I don't know how many of you remember this far back, Darren. I know you'll remember. In 2014 and 2015, both Wofford and Coastal went both years. I don't know if anybody remembers that or not, but Coastal and Wofford went both years. I think Wofford was a 16 one year, and they drew like Virginia. Might have been the year Virginia won the national championship. I can't remember. And then in 2017, South Carolina obviously went the same season. The next year was the College of Charleston and Clemson, and then Wofford went in 2019. And I'd say the last 10 years, remember 2020, nobody went because it was canceled. And then Clemson and Winthrop went last year. So Clemson, Winthrop, Coastal all have a pair of berths in the last decade. Wofford has 3, and the College of Charleston and South Carolina have 1. Just for some hoops research to pass along to all of you here to start today.
As much as I love college basketball, it'd be nice if the state I reside had some more consistent, great basketball. It would be fun.
I agree. Well, I mean, look, if you're interested in putting up a prop bet at the beginning of the college basketball season next year, how about over and under 1.5 for how many teams make it out of this state into the dance? I mean, that's pretty much spot on where it is. So, just very interesting stuff there. Georgia State also won last night in the Fun Belt of Hoops. So I believe, Darren, by my math, have 5 berths: Longwood, Loyola, Murray State, Chattanooga, and Georgia State. And then the West Coast Conference will be decided tonight. Gonzaga and St. Mary's, I think, are in the final of that one.
Yep, that's right. And it's one of 6 that'll be decided tonight, actually. So it's a fun day today. It gets started early with the ACC tournament, but 6 bids are on the line tonight.
6 bids, headlined by that one. Both of those teams are in the tournament no matter what.
You'd think.
So yeah, I don't see St. Mary's, I don't think, being left out, but if
the one to watch for that, I don't think South Dakota State gets in if they lose, but if they win this, it'll be 21-0 in the conference in the Summit League tonight. South Dakota State, I'm counting their tournament games, and I believe they're 29-4. They're a team worth watching tonight if you haven't, because they're fun. The total in the game's at like 154, so it's up tempo, and they chuck threes and they make threes. If you haven't seen South Dakota State, if they get in, they could cause people problems. It's worth a watch tonight.
The Jackrabbits.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. By the way, hats off to the College of Charleston and Pat Kelsey's first season with the Cougars. They fell 3 points shy of tying it last night against UNC Wilmington. A tough charge call at the end of the game, 60-57. Wilmington got their 23rd win of the year, and they advanced to the final in the CAA. Charleston is out. Their season is, I believe, over or likely over. It's 17-15, 8-10 in the CAA. So it's going to be Delaware and Wilmington in the CAA final tonight. That is one of the 6 that Darren referenced that will be decided on the hardwood. All right, this young man slept in this morning. I couldn't get a hold of him. He just woke up, believe it or not.
No, time out. No, whoa. Give me credit. I got up at 11, all right? So I've been up for about an hour.
Darren and I have been up for about 6 hours at 11.
Yes.
I don't have any kids that I know of right now. So,
Yeah, don't
we got a big – well, the Nashville trip, even though that seemed like it was just going down and back. And by the way, I had a chance to catch up with all our good buddies here, Patrick Davis. What an unbelievable bar he has. Never. What an awesome setup. So we had a chance to catch up with him. Ran into Harris Bastides on Broadway because why not? Who wouldn't? And then we got right back here, and now we're heading to Tampa tomorrow. So 5 a.m. wake up call, and I got to deal with moving. My place right now looks like an absolute dump. So, but other than that, life's peachy, boys.
Well, congratulations on the move. I'm not going to tell people where you're moving because I don't need them knocking on your door.
It'll be somewhere near the football stadium. I'll say that, but I probably shouldn't put that out there because someone gets pissed off.
Don't tell anybody.
Out. No. I'm the only Jamoke with the Massachusetts plate, or maybe I do. I don't know. Maybe I want to show all my cards.
Yeah, don't give people your residence.
No.
That's the ultimate no.
No.
I've had somebody ask me before. So where do you live? I'm like, nah.
In my house. How about you?
Nah, man. You don't need to know that. We talked to PD actually on Friday. He'll be down here soon, and looking forward to seeing him. But he's been taking care of his beautiful fiance with the hip surgery. She had hip replacement surgery, Lauren Jenkins. So, he's a nurse, he's an artist, he's all kinds of stuff.
He was awesome, and I'll give you. And I'll say
his bar is cool.
Yeah, and I'll say this because obviously, with him performing the day of the spring game, which is going to be absolutely incredible, and just a home run by the university to put that on. He's very, very excited, as I know you probably know, Jamie, from talking to him. He's very excited about it. And for him to just give us an hour of his time that night, because like you said, his girlfriend, Lauren, God bless her, going with that hip replacement. Fiance, excuse me. It was awesome just to be able to see him. It was probably a good thing that he came. He pulled up with this incredible car. Like, I knew Patrick did well for himself. I did not know he did that well. And PD, if you're listening, I'm not trying to downplay you. That car you pulled up in, I felt like it was on the 2022 version of Pimp My Ride. There were monitors in places I didn't even know monitors could be. He had an awesome car, and I was with our good friend and coworker Chris Wellbon from Gamecock Central. We made the trip down to Nashville for the women's basketball tournament, and I'm like, all right, Chris is a bigger guy. I'll let him sit in the front. Chris actually said to me, he's like, after seeing the back, he's like, I was kind of jealous. I said, yeah. I said, there's a lot of leg room. I felt like I was at on like an exit row, on an airplane. There's so much room back there. So PD is doing very well for himself, but just an awesome guy. And that Never Bar, really, really cool place if you want to try to get away from touristy places. And he's got that whiskey jam, which of course we all enjoy.
Dangerous. I know it did me in on Broadway a few years ago. It was bad news.
I went to one place because the lines are. It was my first time being there, And it seemed like a cleaner version than Bourbon Street, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been to Vegas, so
way cleaner. Yeah. Oh, it's way cleaner. I mean, Mike, and there's 10,000, as you probably saw, 10,000 bachelorette parties always going on.
And I screwed up. I know the door, which is awesome for me. I left the door wide open. I mean, I screwed up to go down to Nashville as someone that's in a relationship. I should have won a couple of years ago. I love you, sweetie. She just flipped me off.
Yeah, it's dangerous if you're not smart. Yeah, there's a place. It was me and Flint and Cisco, which that's just not good. But it was either, I think it was the Florida Georgia Line bar. I can't remember though. We started in the morning, and we did day night double headers. We double dipped while we were there. So we do the daytime run, go home, shower, do the nighttime run. I mean, it was a pretty exhausting thing. I couldn't do that now, I don't think. But anyways, we were upstairs on one of the top decks that overlooks the city, and just happened to walk over to the bar, and I looked up and I said, "Oh my God, you got whiskey jam?" And she said, "Yeah, have you ever had it? Do you know Patrick?" I was like, "Do I?"
Like, no.
Hand it over. And so we literally drank a whole bottle of blackberry while we were sitting up there, and that cut the afternoon a little short, but that's okay.
Helped him buy that car.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all know how much a bottle costs, which I think they're like $25 or something. But on Broadway, 2 of those is like $25. It's like, this is ridiculous. I mean, we should have just smuggled our own in here, but that's okay. All right, Mike. I doubt anybody wants to hear more about our Nashville drinking stories. They probably are a little bit more concerned about, Carolina and who's getting fired and not getting fired and all those type of things. We'll circle back to the women in just a little bit, but I do want to start with the men. And on Thursday, right? Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. Thursday, South Carolina's got Mississippi State 7-10 matchup. We know they split it during the season. So I guess, everybody's having the conversation. Outside of winning the SEC tournament, what is the best case scenario for Frank Martin?
Shoot.
I mean, they're in, right? The NIT right now. They're guys. Do we agree on that? They're in the NIT.
They absolutely should be.
Yeah.
I think they need at least one more win. I think they need one more win, and the reason why is, and here's the reason why. And I don't think Darian is incorrect, or JB. I don't think you're incorrect by saying that they're in it. I think the reality is that we see some of these tournament games go down to the wire, and then you start doing the numbers game, right, where someone could take a spot and then it bumps a bubble team down into the NIT. So from a resume standpoint and everything that you're looking for in order to qualify for the NIT, yes, South Carolina has it. And in the strength of schedule and everything that you need as a prerequisite to be able to make the term, they have it all. The issue is, though, are they going to be one of those teams that continue to slide down? Because I think there's some that have South Carolina projected as a 7th seed. You get to that 7th spot. That's tough sometimes when you're going into a conference championship weekend, right? Because, they could slide to an 8 and then the next spot is, well, you're not going. So I think based on their body of work, I think they deserve to be able to get into it. But being able to get this win against Mississippi State in their first conference tournament game would certainly put them in my opinion. As far as, what does Frank Martin need to do this weekend to make people happy? I think Frank said it best yesterday. I remember just asking him, about the pressure, and he gave a all-time line, which, it's funny how some of those things go. You're not going for necessarily a sound bite, and with me, I'm not in TV anymore, so I don't need the 20-second sound bite. But he said, the whole thing about pressure. He doesn't feel pressure. We could do the whole pressure. I've been shot at, but he doesn't feel the pressure. He doesn't feel the pressure going into this weekend. I think that's a good thing. There shouldn't feel any pressure. There shouldn't be any pressure. He shouldn't feel any. His team shouldn't feel any. This is a team, as we've said before, and I know fans are going to get upset with it, but you got to put it in a vacuum. You have to. This is a team that was projected to finish 12th. They finished 7th in the regular season. Tied in that group, though, but, finished 7th in terms of the seeding. And they have an opportunity still to be able to make some type of postseason. So to me, when you look at things, I wanted to be able to see this team make the NCAA tournament. And I know a lot of fans, of course, wanted to see it. But more than anything, you just wanted to be able to see some type of progress that, hey, this program is headed in the right direction still, that it's not as stale as some people have it out to be. And if they can be able to make the NIT, in my opinion, that should be good enough for some people. Is it going to be good enough for everyone? Absolutely not. I mean, shoot, Frank could make – let's call a spade here. Frank could have made the friggin' NCAA tournament this year, and if they had lost in the first round, there still would have been people bitching. I mean, that's just where we're at. Some people just don't like Frank, and that's okay. That's okay. Oh, 1 year, one tournament in 10 years. Well, technically, it's 1 in 8 because this season's not done yet. So, yes, it could be 1 in 9 because they didn't have it in 2020. I loved how Frank said that. He's such a wise ass, and I friggin' love it. But, the point being is that has nothing to do with this year's team. Oh, all these people transferred out. Okay, well, the average number of transfers for a team last year, this last offseason, was 6. South Carolina had 7. So, if you're going to – we could go tick for tack. We could go back and forth on everything. And this isn't, like I've said before, I'm not trying to be Frank Martin's PR manager. I mean, shoot, I think it's pretty clear with the question I asked him yesterday that he wasn't thrilled with me asking that. But, the point being is, people on the outside, they're going to look at it, say, there's pressure for Frank. He doesn't view it that way, and he shouldn't. Go out there, go get a couple wins this weekend, be able to make some type of postseason tournament to be able to show, hey, look, we're still here. And more importantly, to me, in my opinion, you show Gigi Jackson that you're making progress. Screw the fans, screw the boosters, screw anyone that's looking at it in a way like, oh, we're determining Frank's future. Just try to be able to show Gigi. All right. And that's no disrespect to Ray or the university, but you get my point. Point being is just go out there, NWO style, it's you against the world, and be able to find a way to just show that you're still there.
I'll give you Carolina fans. I mean, I'm looking forward to the night of these conference tournaments. For Carolina fans, you want to pay attention to the ASUN. If you're worried about the NIT and are you in, are you not, and bid stealers, it's a weird situation there.
Yeah.
Bellarmine's not eligible for the NCAA tournament. They are hosting the ASUN championship at their place. If they win, a team they're not even playing will go to the NCAA tournament. If they lose, Jacksonville State will go to the NIT, and the team that beats them, Jacksonville, will head to the NCAA. So that'll swipe a bit out of the NIT.
Don't you just love how all these popsicle headaches just happen in March? You just gotta love. Is there any other sport other than the BCS era that you had to deal with headaches like this? So great.
Yeah, and not to this extent either, because you only had to deal with 2. Really, 1 headache. Generally, there was 1 that was in, and the other one we complained about. It's kind of where we're on football now. So I see I'm actually going to go to the Share Healthcare chat lines here, and Clint asked a question. Not a bad question. It's fair. Nope. Have they made progress, though? What are we measuring that against? And Mike, I mean, I think everybody probably has maybe a little bit of a different version of progress. And I think that in order for us to speak about it thoroughly and truthfully, we need to have as much information as we can possibly have. And outside of Frank Martin, really Coach Tanner is one of the only a couple of people in a very small circle that has all of the information to measure progress. And because we don't, I mean, if you're measuring it against wins and losses, well, then obviously he's made progress. He's won 12 more games than he won last year, and they're significantly better. And I always throw this out just as a little bit of support for the program because of what they went through with COVID. Kentucky won 9 basketball games last year, so it did affect other programs outside of the Gamecocks. That being said, before that they were also 18-13. Well, if they lose on Thursday, guess what? They're 18-13 again. So have they made progress, and is this program heading in the right direction?
I think, and Clint, what Clint's saying, I understand because he's probably very similar to what a lot of Gamecock fans feel like, and I totally understand. You have every right to be. And I think when we look at it, and when I say progress, this is how I view it. Other people can view it differently. Clint can view it differently, and that's okay. When I view it, this is how I view it. South Carolina went to the Final Four that 2016-2017 season. Were they able to, as a lot of people like to use this phrase, and I'll use it, capitalize on it afterwards? No. I mean, Clearly not in terms of being able to make the tournament. They did well, though. They did well in terms of where they finished in the SEC, finishing, I believe, in the top 3, top 4 most of those seasons, other than that COVID year. But for the most part, no, they weren't able to keep that momentum going. I think we can all see that. And then they're not saying anything that people don't know. So at some point, that Final Four run, it is going to wear off, right? That is perhaps what has kept Frank here a little bit longer than maybe the leash for some other coaches if they had not gone to that point. In the eyes of fans, I'm not speaking for myself here. In the eyes of fans, they probably have felt like, all right, if Frank didn't go to that Final Four, maybe he's not here still going into this season or even going into last season. So I look at it that way. And in my personal opinion, heading into this year, it's like, all right, you can give him the pass because of COVID last season. You need to be able to show some type of progress this year that the program's heading in the right direction. So when I say progress, obviously I'm not comparing it to the Final Four year or even the year before that. I'm saying, what can you show me that you're heading in the right direction still, that the ship is not turned, the ship's not sideways, the ship's not wrecked. And I think with being able to bring so many new faces in this year, right? You had 7 new scholarship players, 8 new players altogether. I think it shows that they are capable of being able to do this. I understand some people are going to look at it as, well, we've seen this before in the past. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But at the same time, too, I think by looking at what this team was able to overcome from where they were a year ago, and the fact that Frank has personally said, hey, look, I just wasn't myself last year. I wasn't myself. It's kind of like having one of those epiphanies in life. And I'm not saying that this is last year going through everything that he went through was a wake-up call or anything like that, but it certainly can change someone. It can certainly give someone a better perspective on things, and it can certainly provide a sense of urgency. I think we can all think of something in our life that can do that. It doesn't have to necessarily be COVID. So in my opinion, just being able to get to that point of, hey, look, COVID year, Final Four, all that stuff, I get it. But how is this team looking right now? And to me, I feel like they are moving in the right direction. Now, Frank comes back next year, and this is all, and I also look at it from a business standpoint. Frank comes back, things don't work out next year. Guess what? Buyout's gone. You wait until April 1st of this year, that buyout's going to dip right below $3 million. He comes back next year, the buyout's gone altogether. So in that sense, if Frank does come back and he's able to do extremely well, guess what? You're looking pretty smart. If Frank doesn't do as well as you think he needs to do, or he doesn't reach that standard that you envision, and when I say they, meaning like Ray Tanner, the booster, the board of trustees, then you move on from him and you don't lose a penny. So that I know there's a part of a business standpoint too, but think about it. Everyone wants to fire this person, where is all this money going to come from? Mr. Rice, you can go knock on his door a million times down in Charleston. I mean, at some point, the guy's not going to have any money at this point. What are we doing here?
Well, that's not entirely true, but I hear you. Yeah, no, you can.
I'm speaking tongue in cheek there with Mr. Rice. I don't want to get smacked by someone. He's going to send out someone.
Joe, if you're watching us on a plane somewhere, we don't truly know your financial situation, but
I'm just joking you, Mr. Rice.
We do love you and appreciate you. And Mike, there are conversations I think that people don't like and don't really want to have because they've just seen enough, and it's time to cut bait and move on. We also all know that on Sunday, if South Carolina made some miracle run and won this thing, then people will be backing off of that going, oh, well, he deserves another year. So it really comes down to wins and losses and things of that nature. And I get it. This will not be a popular comment. If all things could stay the same, which they can't because basketball has, you can't predict it anymore with the transfers and things of that nature. But if all things could stay the same, I think that from where they are today, they're a year away. And what I mean by that is the youth in the program, if it stays, I think it's going to be really good. And I do think that even outside of G.G. Jackson, from what I understand, the guys that they've signed are good players. And if they sign him,
when you say a year away, because other people, when I say other people, people that are listening, the fans, they all have different measurables of what that is. When you say that, you saying NCAA tournament? Or are you
Yeah,
just saying? Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to be on the same page as you.
Yeah.
I'll say this too: when you hear a year away, there's going to be a large portion of the fan base that says, "Well, I've heard that for a couple of years."
Yeah, absolutely.
I've heard that repeatedly. So,
no doubt,
a year away, is that good enough?
I agree with you, Darren. And I 100% agree with you. You're spot on, and I say that to say this because if you get it doesn't really matter what the scenario is. Let's say they lose Thursday. Let's say they win Thursday and then lose the next one. They finish 18-13, or they finish 19-13. They get in, win a game or two in the NIT. They've won 20. They've won 21 games. They finish the year 20, 21-14, whatever it is. Okay, it's a very Dave Odom-ish type record if you actually go back and look at it. But if you finish like that, then the question is, because this is not a few years ago, right? We all know what's changed. This is not a football roster of 85. You got 13. And so when you make a coaching change, attrition is coming. I mean, unless they dig up John Wooden or they hire Calipari or, Bill Self or, I don't know, Roy Williams retired. Maybe they can bring him out of retirement. But unless you can do that or lure Coach K down here, there is going to be attrition. And so, but I'm not the expert, so I don't know, Mike. I'm just saying, if you're Coach Tanner and you have this major decision to make, is it better off to try to see it through for another year with Frank? Or is it better off to cut bait and move on and just understand that this is going to come with attrition, and you're going to back yourself up probably another couple of years, because we all think that it is, but time and time again, there is not a quick fix. It's South Carolina and other schools. You might grab some players out of the portal, but it ain't Kentucky and it's not Duke. So you're going to put yourself backwards another couple of years, but it's expected. Or do you just go with I don't know what to expect, and then we just keep going down the same road and let's see what happens? I don't know that answer. I'm just kind of throwing it out there for conversation.
Yeah, I mean, and I obviously said how I feel about the situation, which is, personally, I feel like the program made progress this year, and I view it from last year and the year previously. So I know not everyone's going to view it that way, and I completely understand. I'm not a fan necessarily, quote unquote, of this team. So maybe if I was following them differently, right? I was a reporter, maybe I'd feel a little bit different, but this is just from my opinion and being able to talk to the people that are close to the program. And, obviously we've asked the players personally how they feel where this program is at right now. And they do feel like they are headed right back in the right direction. So I think that the question is, though, if you do it, and not even a question, if you do it, it's a Band-Aid. You have to just pull it off. You can't worry about, okay, we'll get to the following year and the buyout will be gone and this and that. So if you're going to do it, you have to do it. I think we can all agree, whether, you're someone that didn't want Frank back this season, that the way they went about things, and I say they, meaning the university, it wasn't great last year. It was and it wasn't fair to that man too. I don't care if it's Frank Martin or anyone. Now, here's the part about it though. You ask anyone that's close to that situation over there, they'll be like, what the hell is Mike talking about? Mike's an ass, this and that, because I'm saying this, there's nothing that I can technically prove, but we all know what was out there. People can say what they will about Phil Kornblut. I don't think he's the type of guy, especially being in this market as long as he has, he wouldn't just put something out there if he doesn't think that it's very close to being happening. Now,
Phil, by the way, is a very good guy. I will back him up.
Yep.
In any conversation, because
I say that about Phil.
Yeah.
Because I think, a lot of people turned around after and be like, oh, Phil was wrong. Well, as we all learn, as we all know in journalists and reporting, it's not officially done until it's done. But it was leaning that way. And I think our good buddy, David Cloninger from the Post and Courier, put out a story. And I want to make sure that I'm being careful with some of these facts, because it's been over a year. So some of them are going to, I want to make sure that I'm remembering things correctly. But there was a meeting with the then president, Bob Caslin, and the university kind of strong-armed him. They kind of twisted his arm saying, hey, look, if you want this money for a new building, we're not going to be able to use that money to buy out Frank's contract. So there were things going on. And
which by the way, had nothing to do with each other.
No, they didn't.
Athletics money and school money are two totally separate.
Yep.
It's like apples and oranges. That was,
I believe, but
disaster.
But that story did happen though, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. No, it happened.
Okay.
It was just It was just the fact that they even tried to do that was unbelievable to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a second, those are two totally separate budgets. They have nothing to do with each other.
So I say
that headlines Mike's point here. Like all this nonsense that's out there was just.
Oh, I agree. I'm just saying I don't want people to think that like this is all in the like when you bring you got educational money, you got athletics money, but they found a way to try to tie these across the aisle.
My whole point is because I'm sure because I've thought about it too. It's just like, when Frank had his first press conference coming back, but his first press conference since all this stuff kind of happened, what can you really ask? Be like, hey, do you feel like you have the support from the university and the fan base and this and that? He's back there. So what is he going to say? Oh yeah, I don't feel like I have the support, even though he's not going to say that. So, but I mean, he kind of even hinted at it after the Missouri game. He just didn't appreciate the way he was treated. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that was, I wouldn't say a shot, but that was directed towards people close to the university, and just how some of these leaks got put out there and the position that he felt like he was in during that offseason, and how people kind of felt like, hey, it's time to move on from Frank, because that puts him in a tough spot from a recruiting standpoint. So, you think about what they've been able to do with being able to get so many new faces, and they had to, right? They had to. There were 6 players that transferred out, or 7, excuse me. They had to do that. But what does that say, though, that Frank was able to get these players in here to put themselves in a position now where they could still make an NIT tournament appearance, and obviously can make an NCAA if, they run the table here. It says that he's capable of still being able to recruit even when he's pushed in the corner. So what happens when he feels like he has that support from the people to him that matters the most? So, and this isn't to make any division between Frank and the university. Bottom line is he's still here. But I just feel like when we go back to last season, I mean, it was clear as day. It was clear as day that Frank was battling and dealing with so much stuff other than just COVID. And he had to go into work every day, had to go in front of the media and put on a fake smile because he knew there were people behind the scenes that did not want him to be there. People that have a big say, or at least have influence on whether or not he'll be back as head coach.
I think he's still doing that. I think there have been a couple comments in pressers, and I think what he said on Twitter the other night, I think he's still egging on the administration a little bit and leaning on him, pressuring them a little bit.
And there's stuff going on right now. I mean, I'm not going to get into it right now. There's stuff right now that supports that. Mm-hmm. Supports that. And I don't know. I mean, shoot, it's one of those things. It's like, how doesn't Frank know some of these things that are going on? Of course he does. So, right. He, obviously he's a big boy. He's been in this business a long time. He understands. I mean, shoot, not the exact same as apples to apples here, but I mean, when we had Marcus Lattimore on for our first podcast the other day, he talked about one of the reasons why he left USC is he didn't like the business side of it. And that's the reason he went back to coach at Lewis and Clark, or coach at a smaller school, because he felt like it has like that high school pureness to it. So I say that because there's just so much that goes on in these higher schools, not just South Carolina. That's not the South Carolina thing. It's a Power 5 thing more than anything. That pureness does get taken away, and you have to really be able to focus in on your job, regardless of the highs, regardless of the lows, because there's going to be people that are around the university, that are going to be around the program, that are going to say and do things that can make your day-to-day job difficult, mm-hmm. But you got to stay focused.
Mike Uva with Gamecock Central 1238 here on I know it's a busy Tuesday afternoon for Mike. He's moving and he's going to Tampa tomorrow, and he's about to get by his girlfriend for telling her about all the
how you doing, sweetie?
Checking out on in Nashville.
He's good.
I think too, Mike, and I do want to transition in a little bit to the ladies, but there are a couple of important things that need to be talked about, because so many of the public conversations that are had about Frank and his job status and his future, Coach Kingston now, any coach basically, oftentimes, as we all know, those conversations are had through social media or radio or TV, and a lot of them, it's just they're just emotion filled. So you gotta, I think you need to fill in the gaps. We try to do that as much as we can around here. We're not always right, but we try. And I think that one of the most important things that needs to be evaluated isn't only Frank Martin and his tenure with the Gamecocks, but the entire program and what it has been in the last 30 plus years in the SEC and prior, and what it can be. And I'm not saying, oh, well, there's no reason, we should be in there 3 out of 5 times every year. Okay. Well, that's fine. Like I'm one of those people. I don't think that there's many reasons why this basketball program can't win more than it has and be more successful than it has. But you still got to do some research. You got to figure out why it's been so mediocre for so long, because Eddie Fogler was a hell of a basketball coach. He was a national coach of the year at Vanderbilt before he came to South Carolina, and it did not work. It worked for 2 years, one spurt. That's it. Dave Odom was one of the best coaches in the country at Wake Forest. Coach Tim Duncan comes to South Carolina. Didn't really work. Yeah, he won a couple of NIT championships, but it's not good enough, right? So it didn't work for him. Darren Horn did not work. But, I mean, Frank Martin had an unbelievable story before he came to South Carolina. Look what he did at Kansas State. Everybody thought what he did at Kansas State was coming to Columbia, and it did not carry over. And so while Gamecock fans are prideful, and I understand that, I'm one of them. But don't we need to evaluate why this program has hired 3 excellent basketball coaches in the last 30 years and none of them have sustained any success around here? Sure. I mean, you're from the Northeast. Darren's from Pittsburgh. Y'all seen a lot of basketball in a lot of different areas. Like, if there's ever a time to be honest with people about, like, hey, look in the mirror, I'm leaning on guys like you to say, well, I'll tell you why, and maybe you don't have the answer. But it's worth having the conversation because we need to hear the outside opinion.
I mean, this is just my opinion. This is just my opinion in what 6 seasons of covering Gamecock men's basketball. That you have a lot of friggin' talent in this state when it comes to high school basketball. I mean, there's just so much friggin' talent. I mean, when I came down here, I mean, working in Mississippi prior, the talent compared to from Massachusetts down to Mississippi to coming here. I mean, you talk about just sports across the board. Now, there's obviously a lot of talented players in Mississippi for football and baseball. But for basketball, that was just one of those things that I really didn't think about. Because it gets overshadowed by football and baseball. And then you start really thinking about the history and the number of talented players that have come out here. And then you keep going down the list of guys who have gone on from the state to go play at other schools. That's the challenging part. The area that you're in right now, when you have North Carolina, when you have Duke, and you have some of those other schools that are around you, I think it just makes it really difficult to be able to keep players home. Now, here's where things change. When you are able to find a player to break the mold, it can lead to amazing things. It really can. So I just think the formula to success, and you could say this could be the success for football, even though you haven't had the blue chip players in comparison to maybe that 2010, 2011 era for football, right? You know, you think about some of the guys, the Clownies of the world, and some of the guys, Marcus Lattimore. But from a basketball standpoint, I think what you need to be able to do is you need to break the mold of finding that guy. And I don't know what the hell it takes, because sometimes you're going to go into it and you're going to miss. I mean, I don't think people truly understand. I had a conversation with an individual that's very close with Frank the other day about this. We've talked about this numerous times. It literally came down to the 11th hour of Zion going to Duke. And this isn't like, okay, oh, great. You know, that makes me feel better. That makes, oh, Frank's great. I get that. At the end of the day, he went to Duke. But I don't think people truly understand how close he was to coming to South Carolina. And that goes back to Frank.
Why? Hold on. Why? What was it? Was it South Carolina or was it Frank?
Combination of the two.
Because I'm not trying to paint.
Yeah.
This is nothing personal with you, but you brought that up, so I'm gonna bring this up. Gigi Jack. If Frank Martin leaves tomorrow, Gigi Jackson is not coming to South Carolina. We all know that. That is point blank common knowledge. So I asked this question: is it cool to play at South Carolina? Because Frank Martin is why Gigi Jackson is interested in playing at South Carolina, not South Carolina. Yeah, there might be some things about it that he likes, being a hometown hero and stuff like that. But he ain't coming if Frank in here.
It's a big seller. It's a big seller because you look at it. I mean, shoot, For anyone that listens, the part of my take, Frank Martin, I believe they haven't announced the date, but I believe he's going to be on the show tomorrow, which is going to be a phenomenal listen for so many different reasons.
Barstool?
Yes. Big
that'll
Cat,
be
Young
good.
Cats, and
Oh boy.
PFT commenter, but they do a phenomenal job with their podcast. I've been a big fan of their podcast. So, look, people don't like Barstool, so be it. I'm a New Englander, so I grew up basically right next to El Prez, a couple of years on me though, but it's going to be good because I feel like they're going to ask him questions that we're really going to see who Frank is, and obviously those conversations, those interviews are more so, laid back and fun, but there could be one. But I say all that because people outside of South Carolina, I'm not saying people don't appreciate him here, but I think people on the outside really appreciate Frank. That's why I've said before, Frank goes on to another school. I would not be shocked for him to have success somewhere else, and I'm not saying this necessarily has to be a Power 5 school. He has a name. He's been able to produce talent, but the question is, why hasn't it worked here? I just feel like it is a tough area to get people to come to play basketball for whatever reason, because the history for basketball here, it's just not the same in comparison to some of the schools that are around you, the North Carolinas of the world, the Dukes of the world. But that's not to say what we're seeing at Arkansas, some of these other, you can catch lightning in a bottle. There's no question about it. Frank Martin was able to prove that here a couple of years ago. But at the same time, too, guess what? He's still Frank Martin. And if he's able to break that mold and be able to get one of those local guys to stay home, if it is Gigi, I mean, shoot, look what's just happened. And I know it's a little bit different. Look what's happened with football. You were able to get a guy like Spencer Rattler. Of course, not a local guy, but the point being is he broke the mold. And what happened? You've seen all these other transfers come in. So there's different ways to view breaking the mold. I'm looking at it from a breaking the mold from a local standpoint. But if Gigi's that guy or whoever that guy is that helps break that mold, there could be other guys saying, hey, he's going there. Why shouldn't I? Thornwell was able to do it. PJ Dozier was able to do it. He was a McDonald's All-American. He didn't need to come to South Carolina, but he did.
I'll throw this in there because you asked a question before, like what's changed? What's the reason behind the inability to sustain success and maybe what's changed? I have heard and been a part of very strong arguments and conversations about one topic and why this one topic is a reason he should stay and why this one topic is a reason someone else should come in, and it's the portal. And how quickly things can turn around. The argument for him is, well, now there's the portal, now there's NIL, there's ways for Frank to get guys in. If the knock's always been recruiting, there's ways to now step that up, particularly if you get a star on campus, like the Spencer Rattler effect with Gigi Jackson. Then the other side is, yeah, but you also know, and I've said this for a long, long time, it is easier, much, to come into a basketball program as a new coach and turn things around and get things going faster than most other programs. And if you have the right guy, and it's not just the right guy who fits where he is, that's important, but the right guy with the right connections, recruiting, and portal, which is almost more important than actually recruiting high school basketball players these days, probably is more important these days, then it can happen quickly. So even that argument of how can things change and why is the climate of basketball different now and you can expect more success now, you can still take that down both of those roads as to why you should expect better things either way you go.
Yeah, I mean, it can be said about any sport, right? When that bar gets just risen just even a little bit, that's the expectations now. I mean, think about it from a baseball standpoint. I mean, obviously a disappointing weekend for Gamecock baseball. And it does not get any easier these next couple weeks, but that's
the next 11 weeks, Mike. They play in the SEC every weekend's tough.
No question about it. These next 3 weeks, though, holy cow, what a gauntlet it's going to be. And we're going to find out a lot about this team, but the point being is, that bar has risen. People expect more, to what Darren is saying. And I don't know. Whether Frank's the guy moving forward, and I'm not saying necessarily next season, but in terms of like being the guy for the next couple of years, whether it's Frank or someone else, they need to be able to find a way to break that mold. I think that's honestly the God's honest truth. And it sounds maybe cliche to say, and it's like, that's not really anything that we don't know, but I think that's how simple it comes down to. You have to break this mold, and whatever stigma that is out there about South Carolina basketball. And women's, of course, it's a little bit different, but I mean, shoot, it wasn't that long ago that recruits like Asia Wilson and her dad were able to sit in the front row of women's basketball games because no one was there. It wasn't long ago that women's basketball games were getting bumped from Colonial Life Arena for concerts to be able to play at the Coliseum. That wasn't that long ago. Now, people could say women's basketball is a little bit different from men's, and I would give you that. But at the same time, too, if you were in a bunker 15 years ago and you had just woken up and I told you, yeah, women's basketball in South Carolina is one of the best right now in the country, you'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? If you can find a coach that can be able to break the stigma, right, and you get these players that want to play. Asia Wilson was that player. Asia Wilson was a generational player. If you can find someone, and especially if it's a local person, then you can really hang your hat on and be like, hey, look, Asia Wilson was able to do that. You know, now you have players, the girl down the street from Cardinal Newman that's dunking and people want to stay. And obviously it helps that it's Dawn Staley. But, I mean, you need to find a way to break that mold. And if a guy like Gigi Jackson is that one, we could be looking back a couple of years from now saying, hey, look, this is what changed the course of not just Frank Martin's career at South Carolina, but it changed the tenure of Frank Martin, but it changed the perception of basketball at the University of South Carolina as well for men.
Yeah, and Mike, I mean, we'll kind of leave it there. I do want to get into some football with you because you've done such a great job with the Lattimore stuff, but I think that has gotten us to a point where is Frank Martin the guy that can do it or not? I mean, that's just a big question as to what the future of the program should look like, and can he be the guy? I mean, everybody talks about keeping in the in-state kids and stuff like that. One side of that is nobody would ever talk about it if they won. Nobody would give a rat's where players came from as long as you're winning every year. The other side of it is sparingly here and there, players have stayed home. BJ Mackey stayed home. Sindarius Thornwell has stayed home. You know, we've seen it over the years from time to time, but largely we have not. Devin Downey did not stay at South Carolina. He went to Cincinnati and transferred back in. Zam Frederick left the state, came back home. Larry Davis went to North Carolina and then transferred back to South Carolina. I mean, guys have left and come home, but not many have stayed home because I don't know that it's just been cool to play for South Carolina amongst a few other things out there. Real quick, I see, Craig, you know how much we love you. I don't buy totally into the Under Armour thing. And I know some people out there have floated that as to why players don't come. Auburn's having no problem signing players. All right. And they have Bruce Pearl, and I get it. But Auburn's an Under Armour school too, and they're having zero problem signing players. So, I would put that down the list as to why.
Yeah, it doesn't help, but it's not like the primary reason.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Darren, I get it. It's not Jumpman. It's not the Nike stuff. It's not the cool swag or whatever, but that is – if it was as simple as that, they'd be out of the Under Armour contract. I promise you. The Under Armour contract in Carolina would be over. They would be into something else if it was just apparel. All right. I do want to talk to you about Marcus. We got about 7 minutes. We've kept you forever. And I want to talk to you about the Marcus Lattimore stuff. Mike, full disclosure here, I haven't had much of a chance to even breathe in the last week plus, so I have not had a chance to listen to it. I'm planning to do that when I have a ton of time to just keep listening. So I'm really excited about it. But I did see that you asked Marcus why the Will Muschamp era didn't work at South Carolina. I certainly want to encourage people to listen to it, so I don't want you to give it all away. But what have you learned about that? Because that is a bold question, and apparently he answered it.
Yeah, and I give Marcus a lot of credit, and it goes back to just the relationship and the trust that we have, that he's comfortable enough with being able to share that. And I think one of the best things that we've seen since doing this podcast is, some of the group chats that I've been with from some of the former players, and I can only imagine some of the text messages he's been getting, is that he's just being authentic. He's being himself. But, he said it. He's like, look, Will's a great person. Will's a phenomenal coach. He's very smart. He's really good when it comes to recruiting as well. And we've been able to see that because that's one of the things I asked him. I said, look, you have so many guys that have come through here during that Will Muschamp era that are having success in the NFL. Why didn't it work? Why didn't it work? And the one thing that he said that really stood out to me, because you hear from Shane Beamer, you hear from some of the players. And I mean, I did an interview, our latest Garnet Trust interview with Jaheim Bell this morning, which will come out tomorrow on Gamecock Central. Jaheim Bell even said the difference with this year compared to where the things were last year, that togetherness, that everyone's pulling in the same direction, that everyone wants the same thing. and that love and that respect for one another, it's there. So that's the biggest takeaway, because you keep hearing Beamer and these players all season long going back to, there's more love in this building. There's love, love, love. So when Marcus, and I don't think Marcus knew that Shane had been using that phrase, but when he said that the love was just missing in that building, that really stood out to me. Now, I don't know for a fact. I'd love to find out, and I will do some digging on it. I would love to know if that phrase was something that was discussed when Beamer sat down with a lot of the players when he first came into the building, because I can tell you, it doesn't matter what level it is. It doesn't matter if it's D1, D2, D3. I'm sure it's the same as NAIA. When I went through a coaching change in college, you would have some of the leaders, some of the seniors would meet with the new coach, and they'd go through a list of things like, all right, what didn't work, what worked, what can we do better, that kind of stuff. So I'm sure Shane had an opportunity to speak with some of those players, and perhaps, I don't know this for a fact, perhaps that was one of the phrases that was used a lot, because I just find it fascinating that Marcus would use that phrase, that there was a lack of love in that building. And we've heard that phrase more this past season from players than my other 5 years or 6 years of covering the SEC, if you want to include my time in Mississippi. So I thought that part was fascinating. And, just little things too. He just didn't feel like everyone was in sync, that there would be different, goals that people had. It wasn't the same common goal. And I think, when we see it from an outsider's perspective, like put Marcus to the side, I think a lot of the time when we hear people talk about it is just like, there was more of an individual kind of feel to it. Now there's a team feel to it. So that's just how I took it. That's how I was able to kind of listen to what Marcus was saying and kind of walked away saying, that's how I felt based on everything that we've heard over the last year and being able to hear from Marcus. But like I said, Marcus has nothing but respect and love for Coach Muschamp. I'd be interested to know if Will reached out to him, because one of the things that we're going to be doing each week with this podcast, with the Belief Network, is we're going to have a story each week that we're going to throw up on Gamecock Central, just a little tidbit, so you're going to be able to find something, gives you another reason to be able to want to listen to the podcast, but something that was just interesting that he said. And that was the most interesting. I mean, the story that he shared about Spurrier finding out that he was ordering chicken wings the night before games and would go back and rewind the highlights over and over because he was saying, oh, there's too much chicken grease on your fingers, huh, Marcus? So, there's different great stories in there. Stories about after the Alabama win in 2010. There's a lot of great stories in there, but that was the one that really stood out to me. And I think that's the question. Because look, some people are going to respond like this. Oh, I can tell you why, because it didn't work at Florida. Oh, gee, thanks, Einstein. That's great. Add a little bit more insight to it, and Marcus provided that. So I'll give Marcus a lot of credit. This has been an awesome project to work on. I know it's only been one episode, but we've been working on this for the last couple of weeks, last couple of months now. And he has been an open book, and he said, look, he's like, what do you think we need to do? I said, just be authentic, because it's like a friggin' steak restaurant. You can have the biggest name steak restaurant in the joint, but if your thing tastes like crap, people aren't going to come back. So hopefully people enjoyed their steak yesterday, and they're going to want to come back for more.
Steak's good.
I remember when Coach Spurrier banned everybody from Bernie's. I think I was in school when that happened. Wasn't I? Yeah, I was. And I can't remember who it was. It might have been Stephen Flynn or one of those guys. We were going to lunch one day. He said, dude, we can't eat at Bernie's. So we get caught down there. We got to run. I was like, what? What did you say? Spurrier said no more Bernie's. It's Bernie's, man.
I heard
that's my jam.
I was told it was no Bernie's, no Bojangles, which breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Because of what
they were both right there.
What happened with Captain Munningland, because he kept cramping. They would bring specialists in, and they had no idea why he was cramping so much. And the reason why he was, they had no idea. They're like, well, he's healthy, but he kept cramping, not just him, but a lot of these players. And I guess there was a meeting that he showed up to, and he had like a box of Bojangles, and Spurs looking at him saying like, what's that? He's like, well, it's Bojangles. He's like, do you eat that a lot? He's like, yeah. He's like, I eat it every day. So they banned, from my knowledge, fried chicken and Bojangles from like the locker room, the old ops building. Yeah. But that was yeah.
Bernie's right. Bernie's at Bojangles.
Great
It
story.
was right there. I mean, I remember it vividly because I remember going, what do you mean we can't go to Bernie's? I don't play football at South Carolina. Yeah, well, if you want me to go, I can't go. It's like, okay. I guess we'll go get a sandwich.
Guess we'll do somewhere else.
All right. God bless Steve, man. He was one of a kind. For those who have not listened to it, how do they find it?
You can do one or two ways. We can do multiple ways, but honestly, the easiest is probably just to go on to the Believe. It's just BLEAV. .com, and you can just type in the word South Carolina. So the name of the podcast, because it's all falling under their umbrella, it's called Believe in South Carolina, BLEAV in South Carolina. We also are going to throw it up each week on Gamecock Central, and that is a free link. So you don't have to be a subscriber for that. But one neat thing, though, I will say this, if you are a subscriber to Gamecock Central that we're doing, is on the Insiders Forum, you have the opportunity to be able to ask questions directly. So very grateful for both Believe and Marcus for allowing us to take advantage of that platform that we have with Gamecock Central subscribers. So it's an added perk. So if you're a GC member, you have an opportunity to ask Marcus questions directly. Man, we have some exciting things, hopefully, also in the works with Marcus moving forward with GC. So even though this is not a Gamecock Central platform, Brian Shoemaker, my boss, has been awesome with it because I think he understands, like, yeah, well, Marcus, yeah, people like him. So, we're able to put stuff up on our website, but we're also building a good relationship over at GC with them. And hopefully we'll be able to do some more things with them outside of that podcast in the near future.
I just tried to tweet something about Believe. How do you spell the Believe, the platform?
It's just BLEAV.
No E.
Yeah, BLE.
Yeah.
This is gonna be like a who's on first situation. BLE.
Yeah. AV.
EA. Yeah, got it. BLEAV. There's just no E at the end.
Oh yeah, there's no E at the end. They ran out of money. They weren't able to afford that last E at the end.
If you want a good who's on first conversation, go find Shaq's conversation.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I saw that. God, I love Shaq. He is the best. He is so funny.
Well, you know what's not funny? Thinking about that and trying to figure out where I can get some gas because I'm going to be the one that's driving. Granted, I get reimbursed, but I'm not going to get paid until next month with it. That's going to be fun. Well, I'll let you know how much money I spent on gas from here to Tampa to back with. I'm going to be with my coworker Colin Taylor and then Michael and Anna of the state. So it's going to be something. Hopefully, I don't get pulled over.
Disaster. Have a safe trip down to Tampa. Pull up through, Mike. Hopefully, it will be good times for the Gamecocks in the backyard of one Stephen Garcia. And if you happen to get out in Ybor City, I'll just tell you that one Outback Bowl long ago, my uncle once clucked like a chicken right through Ybor City, right behind the Ohio State band after we beat the crap out of them in the Outback Bowl. So you'll be standing on legendary ground from my Uncle Larry.
I'll leave you on this
22 years ago.
I'll leave you on this note. If South Carolina loses this weekend, I know what the issue is. It's not Frank. It's not the team.
Something to do with Steven.
It's Colin Taylor. Colin Taylor has not covered a win in the SEC tournament in any of the games he's ever gone down and covered. So
then why is he going this time?
Well, he's going with me, so maybe I've never covered a men's SEC tournament, so maybe I'll be the good luck charm. Yeah, so if they lose, everyone just tweet at Colin Taylor, tell him how much he sucks and how he's the worst person in the world, and
it's all his fault.
Tell his, maybe tag his wife Michaela, say you should leave him. I mean, maybe that's a little too far, but you get the point, So Colin's the bad luck. Hopefully, we can break the curse with men's basketball this weekend with Colin. Maybe we'll have him do one of those crazy ritual things for a different country that I don't know of that, bring some good luck. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what people do for good luck these days.
Does he travel with Dino Nuggets?
I don't know. I've never
pack them in a cooler.
This will be the first time that we're doing a road trip together for something like this. So,
sweet Jesus. Are you driving all the way through? Or are you stopping in halfway? You're driving.
I mean, I'll tell you what. So the best part about doing all the packing, I found a gift card. I don't know if it expired from the SEC media days from like 2018 or 2017. A $10 gift card for Pilot gas station. So we'll make some stops at. I'm going to stop at Pilot. I mean, here's a free plug for Pilot gas station. I don't know what the hell it was until the other day driving down to Nashville. So I think we are going to drive on through. Hopefully we'll be able to catch up with Steven Garcia at the Nest. Maybe we'll do a segment over there. But then again,
do it after the game so you get to the game.
Yeah, that's the part. But no, but they will practices. They left today. Practice is open tomorrow, so we're going to be able to go down there, get some sound, get some video, and we'll have some reports for you guys on GamecockCentral.com.
Perfect. Well, good luck on 95 and certainly good luck on I-4 when you get to Orlando and start jetting over towards Tampa. It's a lot of fun. Hopefully you won't have to get through there around bumper to bumper time. Hopefully that's not the case.
I appreciate you guys.
Mike, thank you. Good luck on your move today, and we'll catch up with you very, very soon, my friend.
All right. Thank you, fellas. And hey, go big bases in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, no shifts, big bases. They're turning this into the men's softball league. It's a joke. Unbelievable. Thanks, man. See ya.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, got to hit a break. When we return, speaking of baseball, we'll get into it. The Calvin Ridley story, Keith Allsep, all ahead on the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance the new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And two others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Flamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
Okay, final hour, actually less than that. On March 8th, this Tuesday afternoon. Happy birthday to my wife. I'm saying it publicly, but I've already told her that this morning, just so everybody knows I did not miss it. Happy birthday to my wife. Today is Carrie's birthday. So we will be, we're not doing much, but we'll be celebrating at home with the kids and keeping it kind of low key, Darren. That's what happens when you get older. I still have some friends, though. Doesn't matter. We're 34, 37. Like, oh, man, we're getting 30 people together. And we're going and, we're going to rent a harbor cruise. I'm like, dude, you're 37. Cares?
Yeah. Birthdays to me are not a big deal. My wife's birthday was recently, I don't know, a week ago, right? That was a week ago. We didn't do anything extravagant. We went out to dinner to a place she chose, and that's pretty much what we do. Like on my birthday, we went to Outback because there's no better restaurant on the planet than Outback Steakhouse. So we went to Outback. Right. That's it. Nice and simple.
Yeah, I just, I don't know. When I get to 40, you can knock the doors down for me. But for now, I just kind of like hanging with the kids and sitting around the house. And tonight, I probably won't watch a lot of hoops. We'll probably just watch a movie or something like that. It's her day. She can choose whatever she wants.
Oh, see, that's where you do it wrong. So she can watch whatever she wants, and then you bring additional TVs down and put games on around them.
Now, see, every other day is my day. I'll give up one on March the 8th. I'm all right with that.
All right.
There's no March Madness going on. I'm good. It's not football, anything like that. So, all right. So happy birthday. I don't know if Carrie's listening or not. If she is, she's like, oh, thanks. Real quick here on the baseball, national baseball slate, 19th ranked Clemson at 1:00, like just now, has thrown the first pitch against East Tennessee State.
I believe it's been postponed. I saw earlier today.
Oh, did they end up postponing it?
Yeah, I think they bagged it for a couple of weeks.
Okay. I must have missed that.
Yes.
I'll
double check, but I'm pretty sure.
That's what you're here for. Thank you, sir. South Carolina and Xavier's coming up in just a little while. They had moved that up to, I think, a 3:00 first pitch. So just to be clear on that.
Clemson is April 20th with ETSU.
Okay. All right. Well, I must have missed that. So I apologize to everybody. 21st ranked TCU is at Louisville today. Very interesting there. Dan McDonald's Cardinals trying to get back into the top 25. How about 22nd ranked NC State and a tricky road one at UNC Greensboro? I tell you what, 9th ranked Notre Dame better be careful. They're at Elon. Elon's pretty good, and that's a tricky little road contest there. Don't see this often. 15th ranked North Carolina at 14th ranked Liberty on a Tuesday afternoon. How about that, huh? 13th ranked Georgia Tech in a tricky ball game as well at Mercer. Jacksonville's at Florida. Who cares, right? Jacksonville tends to beat Florida, so keep your eyes on that one as well. Memphis is at Ole Miss. Ole Miss, by the way, is up to number 2 in the country. In Texas, in their final game before they hit the road for Columbia, is at Texas State, and a top 25 matchup here. Texas Tech against Mississippi State, 17-23 matchup. That is in Biloxi, Mississippi. So moving that one around just a little bit as well. So that's your baseball schedule. And then, Darren, of course, on the hardwood, the ACC tournament is set to get underway at 2:00 this afternoon, and that is Boston College and Pittsburgh in a 12-13 matchup there. It'll be immediately followed by 10-15, 15th seeded NC State, 10th seeded Clemson, who has finished the year nicely. They're 5-point favorites in the game at 4:30 on the ACC network. All of these games today are on the ACC network. And then tonight, the nightcap, 11th-seeded Louisville and 14th-seeded Georgia Tech. If Clemson wins, they'll get 7th-seeded Virginia Tech, and then the winner of that game will move on to 2nd-seeded Notre Dame. So that is what the setup looks like right now for the ACC tournament, which is underway today. And then at 5 o'clock, the ASUN Championship final, Jacksonville and Bellarmine. You went through this whole crazy chaotic scenario earlier. It's being played at Freedom Hall in Louisville. Bellarmine is a 2.5-point favorite. It's on ESPN2. The Northeast Conference tournament final is at 7 on ESPN2. That is Wagner versus Bryant, where Bryant is a 3-point favorite in that ball game. Delaware and UNC Wilmington tonight at 7 on the CBS Sports Network. And the CAA Championship, Cougars fell 3 points shy yesterday of having a shot at it. So we'll see if either one of these proud basketball programs can get back there. The Blue Hens are 2.5-point favorites in that one. The Horizon League.
That's a weird line, by the way. Really weird. Wilmington took both games from them. This is everyone gets on me for analytics. I've been on Wilmington all year long, and the analytics hate them. And they went 12 straight at one point covering. I should have been on them last night, and I didn't for no good reason whatsoever. It's a strange line. There's people talking about that line. I don't know if people know something or if that's just a really strange line. Anyway, continue.
Maybe it's just because it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I don't know.
You want a fun stat about that? It's not as hard as you think. Last year, when teams had a chance to go 3-0, they won 71% of the times in game 3.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Great stat. Happened in South Carolina versus Georgia in the year that they should have been in the dance but weren't, for what it's worth. The Horizon League Championships at 7 tonight on ESPN from Indiana Farmers Coliseum in Indianapolis, Northern Kentucky and Wright State. Northern Kentucky's having a nice little run right now. The baseball team's playing well. The basketball team's playing well.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky's a 1-point favorite in that game. Let's see. And I'm missing a couple of finals here. The West Coast Conference Tournament final tonight at 9 on ESPN. You'd like to think this could be a good one. We'll see. Gonzaga's a 12.5-point favorite in it. They are the number 1 team in the country right now in the rankings, and their opponent is 17th ranked St. Mary's. It does look like we know Gonzaga's in, but it does look like St. Mary's will probably be in the tournament regardless of what happens tonight. And then the final bid that will be awarded is between North and South Dakota State. North Dakota State and South Dakota State. The Jackrabbits have not lost a game, by the way, this year in the Summit League.
Mm-hmm.
The Summit League Championship Finals tonight at 9 on ESPN2. And the Jackrabbits are 6-point favorites, and that is played in beautiful and really, really freaking cold Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Is it at not the Pentagon? Whatever the name of it could be the Pentagon.
The Denny Sanford Premier Center.
That's it. The Gamecocks played a tournament out there. Yeah, it's a really, really cool spot. Believe it or not, I didn't do a game there, but I've been there. And it's a really cool spot. Yeah, it's a cool arena. I did a D2 game at Augustana, which is in Sioux Falls. And there's another D2 in Sioux Falls called Sioux Falls. So I did that rivalry one year and checked out that arena.
I've always wanted to go to the Dakotas. People say that I'm crazy, but I want to see all of America. And I've really always wanted to go to the Dakotas. What were your impressions?
People hate me when I answer like this. Oh, wow, it's cool. You travel. Every place is like the same unless something really jumps out at me, right? You see some arenas, you see some airports, you see some hotels, you see a game. And
you're talking about when you're doing basketball games.
Well, yeah. I mean, but even when I'm traveling, I mean, I used to joke with my dad. It's like Anywhereville, USA. A lot of the places are drop you on the map, and we'll see. It was cold when I was there. It was windy when I was there. There was some weird thunderstorm roll through. Those are things I remember. Yeah.
Well, it's not all the same to me because when I go to Wyoming, it is nothing like South Carolina. So, but I'm going to go one day. So anybody in the Dakotas watching our program, hats off to you. Can't wait to see you. Probably in the summer. I don't know that I want to go out there in the winter. All right, we got Keith coming up in just a minute. Darren, how about this Calvin Ridley story? This is wild stuff. So he was on the injured reserve list last year, and he bet $1,500 total, I think, in 3 different parlays, if I had the story correct. And he also bet his team, the Falcons, to win.
Mm-hmm.
And the NFL said, yeah, not going to happen. He admitted to it. He also said, I only got 1 year, LOL. So he didn't care. He's going to be sitting out for a year. He's going to miss out on a bunch of money. So, it's bad. You don't, that's the no. You can't do it. It's the rule. It's bad, but my hat's off to him for, admitting it. He did it. He owned up to it.
What he did was stupid because you can't, like, all through college and then you're a pro and you go through symposiums and they tell you in the locker rooms after you're already beyond your rookie season, like, you can't bet on games. If you so desire to, there are plenty of ways to do it and not get caught. That's part one. Part two. So he was dumb. Part two, how in bed leagues and teams are with casinos and sports books. And it's not just they're in bed with them as sponsors, that a lot of them are actually generating revenue from people going through these partnerships to place their bets. So as that grows and becomes not even more accepted, I mean, it's the fastest growing segment in all of sports is gambling on sports. As it's time to adjust the rules to some degree, because I listened to a lot of this stuff this morning. Dan Patrick was discussing it as well. It's not that the NFL is scared that someone's going to throw a game. It's the perception of, we got a guy in the NFL betting on games, and that's bad. What he did, comparatively speaking, is like if I spend 5 cents on a parlay, he didn't affect the game. He wasn't even around the team. What he did was stupid. The punishment to me seems harsh. It seems like it's something they need to adjust their rules. I get it. I get you can't bet on games, but I do think there has to be some type of a tweak in there somewhere.
Yeah, I'd probably have to think about it more to have a better conversation with you about that. I don't think though that the punishment is harsh, because if you don't do that, then you open up that door of allowing others to. You gotta hammer it. If you don't hammer it, others are going to do it. I think this is only the first time in 5 or 6 years, Darren, and like maybe the 6th or 7th time in 40 or 50 years that they caught somebody, I guess. I'm sure it's happened other times. We just don't know. So I think you got to hammer it. I just don't. If you don't, you leave the door cracked. It's like your kid. Your kid sticks his finger in an outlet, and you're like, "Don't do that," and they're like, "Okay," and then they do it again, and they get electrocuted. Well, if you pop them on the rear end that first time and scare the crap out of them, they won't do it again. So,
and it's a huge point of emphasis. I mean, I get what you're saying, and
yeah,
you're right. It's a massive point of emphasis for the league. They hammer it down to their players all the time. It is a massive, massive point of emphasis. But that also speaks to how dumb he was, because in this day and age with those partnerships, there are monitors within those partnerships. So if something like this happens, these relationships between leagues, teams, and sports books, there are guys to alert teams and leagues that, hey, we just took a bet from Calvin Ridley. And even though it's pennies, comparatively speaking, like you walked right through it. Like what he did was really, really dumb.
Dude, get an alias. Be John Smith. There's a million John Smiths betting.
What he did was really dumb.
Stupid.
Yeah, or use your best friend who doesn't play in the NFL. Like, you got ways to not be dumb, and he was dumb.
That was pretty dumb. 1:23 on this Tuesday afternoon. Are we still waiting, Keith?
Keith is in the waiting room now.
Do you want to just bypass our commercial break and we'll get him in here? Keith Allsep, host of the Locked on the Gamecocks podcast. Before we get him in, though, Darren, something you have been very, very, or you have emphasized multiple times in a couple of years that I've worked with you about the future of baseball. This needs to happen, and this is happening. According to Apple has signed its first sports rights deal, and it is with Major League Baseball starting this year, if they'll play, weekly Friday night baseball doubleheaders on Apple TV Plus. Games will be exclusive to Apple. They will not be carried by the participating teams' regional sports networks, and they will be produced by Major League Baseball exclusively on the Apple Plus platform.
More is coming. Apple is going in hard. They're going in hard, and they're going after the NFL as well. More is coming. I didn't see this happening in the midst of the lockout, but they're busy. More is coming to Apple Sports.
It makes you wonder, like, if you have Apple, which I have Apple Plus, if you have Amazon Prime, like last night I had the Country Music Awards on Amazon Prime, And if you have YouTube TV, you put those three together, what are you missing?
Not a ton.
Yeah, not much. Not much. You might be missing the Locked On the Gamecocks podcast if you don't have like direct TV. That's on channel 6,592. Hey, Keith.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
By the way, the 6,000s are all the sports channels. So you just fit right in.
I think Apple TV, you know, like in the year 37, 18, you know, when Major League Baseball finally comes back, that'll be exciting for them.
So aren't they moving towards triple dipping? They're moving towards building their own televisions with their own network and their own media deals. Like, we're going to produce the content, put it on our network, and then you're going to watch it on our TV. They're going to be the first $1 trillion company.
And you know why? Not just Apple, but Major League Baseball. It's because the root sports, not just root sports, but the regional sports networks have been such a catastrophic failure for baseball. So it's opening the door for them
Los Angeles.
Except in Los Angeles?
They make a ton of money off of that, the Dodgers do.
Yeah, when you can see them. There are times when Sportsnet LA, I don't even know if they fixed that. Hasn't been able to be seen in a good portion of the area.
I mean, I just stream MLB Network for $99 a year or whatever it is, and I can watch every Braves game.
That's what I do for the Nats because I'm out of the market.
I don't even pay for that. So it's $99. The
Well,
MLB
you can't because you're in market. So they're trying to fix that. That's one of the major issues.
Yeah, I'm out of market.
Right.
So, but I get every game. I get it. I download the app on Roku.
Mm-hmm.
And put it up on my big 70-inch and watch the Braves.
Yep.
Just like my dad used to do.
That is what y'all just said, Darren. They're trying to fix these blackouts and these. This ain't 1990, man. It's 2022. Like, we have access to everything, and you can't watch the Braves where I am unless you have Does Comcast even have Bally Sports?
I think Comcast does.
I think they do.
DirecTV has it.
DirecTV
and
Comcast.
They better get a deal or they're going to lose the fans again. I mean,
it's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
It's
I'm
tonight.
sure you've already talked to your Braves guy about it, but I think, you know, first of all, Max Scherzer is so rich that he should be able to pay somebody to have a good idea. Because giving somebody a ghost game and then they automatically are up 1-0 in the best of 3 and then they get games.
Back up on that,
dude.
Back up on that.
Wasting everybody's time.
Hold on, back up. Because I have not, Keith. I've been spinning in circles the last week, and I think it was yesterday or the day before, I saw this ghost thing, and that reminded me. I never went back and looked to see. What is a ghost game? What did I miss?
So a ghost game means that for the top seeds who get a first round bye in an extended playoffs, go from 12 teams to 14 teams, the top seeds that get a first round bye, not only do they get a bye, they get to be up 1-0 in the series with the first 2 games in their ballpark in a best of 5. And so
what?
Yeah.
Who came up with this?
It just goes to show you don't have to be very smart to be rich. Because
I don't think it was
one of the
Scherzer.
dumbest things I've ever heard in my life.
It doesn't pass anything for me, but it's the players' stance.
It does. It's a time waster. It's something. We're going to propose this because it's total bull crap. Like some of the stuff you're proposing to us.
Whose idea was this? Like what?
Players.
Scherzer
publicly said it. It's the players.
$327 million or $237 million man.
Yeah. So Scherzer is a voice for the players and a vocal one, and pride's part of what he's doing is like he views that as part of who he is right now. So it's not necessarily him. He's speaking for the players, but he obviously agrees. The players agree, or at least
I think that was his idea.
That is the dumbest
Probably
thing.
because he spent too much time in Washington, D.C. playing for the Nationals.
Well, hope he enjoys his time in New York.
DC can, It puts you in the swamp real quick, doesn't it? Yeah, that is, guys. I thought I'd heard it all. I can't. I don't. Look. I'm going to say this publicly.
There's a league that are.
I'll never. If they do that, I will never watch. I won't watch baseball anymore. I'm serious. I don't care. I don't care. It's not. I love baseball. And I love it so much that I'll tell it to kiss my ass if they do something that's stupid. And the owners, you know what? Lock them out for the whole year. If that's a negotiating point, screw them. I'd turn the whole thing on the players because the players have some good points and the owners have some good points and they both also have some poor points. And this is the dumbest of all of them. Get rid of it.
I agree. I think it is.
That is the dumbest one of all of them, but I think most of the
so you don't even play a game, but you want to be paid for it, I'm sure. Yeah, no.
I mean, look, the more money you make, okay, like the NBA and the NFL, okay, every year they make more and more and more and more money, but they don't want to raise the salary cap in conjunction with that. I mean, they've given on some, on like one thing, which is the minimum salary. They've raised it. But essentially, outside of that, the owners have said everything else stays the same. It's all ours, period. And I don't agree with that.
So it's the players'
Major League
response.
Baseball is making tons more money than the average person understands.
Oh, God.
The players understand because their lawyers get to look at the books, not the cooked copy of the books, but the actual books.
Yeah. So this is the players'
like Liberty
response.
Media. Like you can't say, well, we don't have the money to pay Freddie Freeman because you're a publicly traded company and everybody knows it. And what this baseball is turning the same thing as like the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington
Commanders
football team is they're owned by billionaires, okay, and who are brilliant businessmen, but they think that because they're brilliant in business, they can be brilliant at running these clubs, and they're not.
So this is the players' response. I'll explain this. It's the players' response to the owners. The owners,
the biggest homer commissioner of any sport, like Adam Silver for the NBA. The players appreciate and respect him more than probably any other sport because he is about the players. And the baseball commissioner doesn't give a crap about the players, and that's the only reason he's the commissioner, because the owners decide.
So what this is the players' response, reaction, comeback at whether they're going to be a 14-team or 12-team playoff. I'm not saying it makes sense.
Well, they want 16, and I think this 14 with the ghost game is just a way to try to get them to go to 16.
Yeah, so they're basically saying if we increase, then add the ghost game. Otherwise, stay down at 12. But we can get off that because we all agree this is ridiculous. And you're on to talk about how much you love South Carolina women's basketball and men's basketball.
If it wasn't my wife's birthday today, that would have literally ruined my day. But it didn't.
It's not going to happen, so don't worry about it.
Good.
Both my grandfathers died on March the 8th, 4 years apart.
So
really?
Have a happy day then.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. What do you want me to say now?
One when I was 4 and one when I was 8.
Wow. It's a day to honor everyone. March 8th it is. All right, Keith. Carolina loses stunningly to Kentucky in the SEC championship game. Still going to be the number one seed in the tournament. But what are you most concerned with in winning a national championship? What are the top concerns for this program as they attempt to do it again?
Well, they've got to have better guard play, period. Dawn Staley said it after they blew a 25-point lead against Ole Miss and, continually turn the ball over. And their guards have got to be more consistent. Like in the championship game, okay, Destiny Henderson was 0 for 5 in the first half. Zia Cook was 4 for 9 and it hit 3 3-pointers and scored 8 of South Carolina's first 15 points. Then the second half, Henderson, she hit 3 3-pointers. Zia Cook went 1 for 7 and missed 4 consecutive free throws, and she's a 77% free throw shooter. And I mean, look, Dawn Staley is the most frustrated as anybody because, South Carolina got outscored, I believe it was 21-8 and 21-7 in both fourth quarters on Saturday and Sunday. And after Saturday, she said, we got to not take our foot off the gas. And then after Sunday's game, she has to say it again. But within the fourth quarter, there were, I thought in the second half, some critical things. Like they took Bree Beal out, who had been doing a great job on Ryan Howard. And instead of putting Breezy Hall in, the freshman, who did a phenomenal job shutting down Ryan Howard earlier in the year, Dawn Staley leaned on her veterans, which you should be able to do that. They brought in Lily Grissett, and Ryan Howard torched her for like 8 points in 2 or 3 minutes. And that helped swing the momentum. And then I also thought for the first time all year, or at least since early in November, Aaliyah Boston got sped up. And she missed 4 straight chippies, bunnies, lay-ins. And she missed a lot of them on Sunday. Maybe she was anticipating double teams. But I thought she was sped up. And then the last thing, there's 18 seconds to go. South Carolina's up. Or really, there's about 20 seconds to go. Kentucky has the ball down 1. Somebody sticks their hand in and knocks the ball away from Ryan Howard. Victoria Saxton gets a loose ball. And she's the worst free throw shooter in South Carolina's starting 5, or the 5 that were out there. So they call timeout, which was brilliant strategy because you didn't want them fouling her. And you get to advance the ball. So that left South Carolina with 1 timeout. Well, normally, Destiny Henderson throws the ball in on pretty much every out-of-bounds play. But if you do that, then that leaves Bree Beal, who's also not a great free throw shooter, out there. And so instead, they had Beal inbound the ball. Well, the play that they drew up, I don't know if it was a new play. I don't know if it was a play they run all the time, but normally Bree Beal never throws the ball in. And South Carolina's players, really none of them, I thought, executed at all. There was no hard cuts. There was no V cut. There was no crisp screen. There was nobody sprinting to the ball. And so they had to call their last timeout to avoid turning the ball over on a 5-second count. And so they also had still 4 fouls to give. I don't think they committed any fouls. Maybe it was 3 fouls to give. And so South Carolina, after burning their last timeout, they got the ball in to Zia Cook, which was great. 16.1 seconds. Your second best free throw shooter. And she bricked both of them. Kentucky comes down. Aaliyah Boston understands they have multiple fouls to give, and so she fouls, which was brilliant. So then Kentucky decides to call timeout. Well, Dawn Staley tells them, hey, we still got 2 or 3 fouls to give here. There's 11 seconds to go. And for whatever reason, South Carolina's players just wigged out. And they did not foul. And I'm pretty sure they were going to switch all screens. And so they ran a high ball screen with Jasmine Massengill, who's 6'1". Zia Cook was guarding her. And Massengill did not really use the ball screen. She was too wide. And so Cook went through that ball screen with her. So there was really no switch. but it looked like Massengill was going to turn the corner. So Boston stepped back inside the 3-point line, and immediately they whipped it back to Edwards, who drained a 3. So if Cook would have got stuck on the screen, she would have switched. Edwards would have had to put the ball on the deck or pass to somebody else. And so there's really, I mean, that's just a bad break, right? Because Cook's supposed to switch if she gets picked off, but she didn't get picked off. Boston steps off because that's what she was supposed to do, because they anticipated that high ball screen. But there was no switch. And so then also, instead of the clock stopping and you being able to call timeout and advance the basketball, which is the one rule men's college basketball does not have, which they should have, South Carolina was forced to inbound and go the length of the court, and they had a heave, and that was it. But the bottom line is South Carolina was 10 of 23 on layups. They missed 13 point-blank range shots and only 12 of 20 from the free throw line, and they did not score for the final 5 minutes and 4 seconds. That's not coaching. That's on the players. The players have to be accountable for that. And nobody's as frustrated or probably as pissed off as Dawn Staley is. And she should be pissed off about it.
Which that could be very scary for the rest of the field. Keith Allsep at 140 on Carrie Bradford's birthday. Here, March 8th. All right, Keith. So assuming that South Carolina retains the number 1 overall seed as expected, how strong of a number 1 overall seed are they?
Well, I mean, look, they are the most talented team in the country. They have 11 McDonald's All-Americans. They have the best player in the country in Aaliyah Boston. They have the deepest bench probably in the country, but they don't always play the best. South Carolina is the best defensive team in the country. South Carolina is the best rebounding team in the country. But South Carolina's offense is very inconsistent, just like their guard play is. Their scheme is I mean, look, here's the deal, guys. When you run a program, you have to make your program about really 2 or 3 things that are going to be the staples that you are going to hang your hat on your program. The staples of South Carolina women's basketball since Dawn Staley arrived was, number 1, culture. Number 2, defense. Number 3, rebounding. Okay, second chance points and transition. Okay, that is what they're about. And so if you spend most of your time working on defense, rebounding, they're the number 1 offensive rebounding team in the country. They get a ton of second chance points because they work on it and because they're the biggest team in the country. I mean, you got Camila Cardoso, 6'7", Boston, who's 6'5", LA, 6'4". You have Sanaya Fagan, who's a 6'4" freshman, who's like the number 4 player in the country. And you got Victoria Saxton, who jumps out of the gym at 6'2". Lily Grissett's 6'2", Bree Beal, 6'2". They're a big team, except in the backcourt. They have really small guards. Henderson, they list her at 5'7". I mean, I think she's got to be wearing some shoes to be 5'7". Cook is 5'9", and they, Ole Miss and Kentucky, they scrambled them in the backcourt and ran bigger players at them, and they turned it over a bunch. 8 turnovers in the fourth quarter against Ole Miss, and a lot of them coming on just overthrowing the ball because, you're small and you're trying to get it over bigger bodies. To me, that's the biggest concern, is the size of South Carolina's guards and the consistency on which they play on the offensive end of the floor.
With that being said, actually, Keith, first, before I get there, first of all, this is huge news out of the NFL. Breaking from Adam Schefter, it appears that the Denver Broncos have traded for Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks.
Because they missed out on Rodgers earlier today.
They missed out on Rodgers, so they're going to get Russell Wilson, pending the physical, obviously. But that is huge news for the Denver Broncos.
I'm really shocked.
Huge.
I know Colin Cowherd probably just dropped a deuce on the air, having to report that. He loves Russell Wilson. He loves Pete Carroll. He loves
Russell Wilson's solid. Smoke did some charity type things with him when he was in Seattle, and he said he's awesome.
Looks like a good dude.
Super dude. Yeah. All right. So what's the best case scenario then for South Carolina as far as seeding goes? I mean, right now, Charlie Krim has them in Greensboro, which we all know that's going to happen. Do what?
Charlie Cream.
What did I say?
Cream.
Cream.
No, he's not a creme brulee. He's a cream.
Charlie Cream has them in Greensboro and in Columbia. That's all expected. We know that. That's not really what I'm talking about, though. 2 seeds, 3 seeds. You want to keep an eye on those so they can get to the Final Four. Right now, Iowa State, the 2, and then the 3 in that region would be Michigan and Stanford, the number 1 seed in Spokane, Louisville in Wichita, NC State, and Bridgeport is interesting as well. In the Bridgeport, not shocking, but interesting that they've got UConn as a 2 seed there all of a sudden. Keith, so I ask you that. That's kind of the part one. The part one is, what's the best case scenario as far as seeding goes, the 2s and the 3s, who would be in their bracket? The other question I asked, though, and we asked it last week, and now that they've played all the conference championships, I'm going to ask it again. Who is the biggest roadblock? Because I don't know if anybody's paid attention, but there's a team out there that has not lost a game in almost 3 months, and that loss was to South Carolina. I know you know who it is, Keith.
Well, I mean, I think Stanford.
That's it.
NC State is fully healthy. They won the ACC tournament. I think those 2, and then to me, I disagree with Charlie Cream. I would have Baylor as the 4th number 1 seed because I think Baylor has the second best player in the country behind Aaliyah Boston. That's Nalissa Smith, who chose Baylor over South Carolina. After South Carolina had just won the national championship, she's from San Antonio. She visited South Carolina during the national championship parade. And, Kim Mulkey, she kind of likes to step over the line a lot, or at least she did when she was at Baylor. I think there was some shenanigans there, but Nalissa Smith is an absolute beast of a player. To me, this year, she's the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft because Aaliyah Boston's not there. So if I'm South Carolina, I don't want to see Baylor because Baylor has good guards. Kim Mulkey left a stocked roster and the second best player in the country. So I would want to avoid them. Iowa State, South Carolina played them last year at Iowa State. Ashley Jones with the Joens. She's the best player on the best team in the state of Iowa. They're currently the 2 seed. Charlie Cream changed it because yesterday it was UConn was the number 2 seed in Greensboro. But since they, have beaten up on the Sisters of the Poor and the Acme typewriter school for the blind and beat them by 50 points, they're a 2 seed in Bridgeport now. And I guess NC State is going to still be in Bridgeport.
Hey, by the way, Keith, I don't know if we don't know if it'll play out like this, but have you paid attention to who the 7 seed is in Bridgeport and who would potentially face UConn in the second round in a 7-2 matchup? Kentucky. So you win the SEC championship, and that's what you're rewarded with, playing UConn in a home game in the second round.
Going into February, Kentucky was not even in the NCAA tournament.
No, I get it. I get
I
it.
mean, they had a magical run, and they were all the people saying, "Oh, this is a tired South Carolina team." No, dude. Kentucky played 4 games in 4 days.
Right.
South Carolina's players got up big and took their foot off the gas because they know they're better than everybody else. Look, South Carolina faced the most difficult non-conference schedule in the country. What they do, they breeze through it. Undefeated. Then they go in the SEC. They have some time off. They're at Missouri. They took their foot off the gas. They lost. Then they won 17 straight SEC games, including the first 2 in the tournament. 15 in a row to end the season. Really, outside of at LSU, where they got off to a bad start, none of them were close, really. And then they got in the tournament, got up by 25. Well, we got this. Well, they still won by 10. They led by 15. They led by 12 going in the fourth quarter. And they just missed a bunch of easy shots. And they didn't get very good guard play. And that is very atypical of a Dawn Staley program. And, you know, I've said this privately. I've said it to friends. I've said it to people that really follow the program. I've said it to my best sources. I really thought once the NCAA tournament started, you'd see a different team. But I don't know now, because I still think that's the most likely scenario. But South Carolina is not cutting down the nets in Minneapolis if Destiny Henderson and Zia Cook go 3 for 9 and 2 for 9, 1 for 8, 2 for 8, 5 for 16 and 3 for 11, and combined for 5, 6, or 7 or more turnovers in games.
Yeah.
They're going home, just like they did in 2016 when they couldn't make a shot in the second half against Syracuse.
Yep.
And Dawn Staley would probably be the first person to say that. And they have got to get better guard play. That is the bottom line. And because guess what? If I watch the SEC tournament, I'm scrambling. I'm pressing South Carolina because they really, I mean, they have a deep bench, but who's running the point against my press when Destiny Henderson has to come out?
Mm-hmm.
And Zia Cook has to come out. And then I'm putting five players, and all of them have got one or both feet in the lane and just dare you to beat me until you put Destiny Littleton out there, and then I'm going to go out and guard her. I'm not guarding Lily Grissett on the perimeter. I'm not guarding Bree Beal on the perimeter. When Cook and Henderson come out, I'm not guarding anybody unless you throw Littleton out there, and then I'm going to go right at her when I have the basketball with my best, whoever got her, I'm going to try to get them in an ISO and take her off the bounce.
Obviously, Keith, we'll wait to see how it all plays out. But right now, according to the bracketology, it would be top-seeded South Carolina against either 16th-seeded Fairleigh Dickinson or Houston Baptist. I do, since we're getting short on time, and I got to get out of here because I got to go wrap up some things for Carrie's birthday today. I do want to ask you about Tom Crean and Georgia. They're going to part ways at the end of the season, which could be as early as, tomorrow? For Georgia, and as more than likely tomorrow night in a 14-11 matchup against Vanderbilt down in Tampa. So Tom Crean will be out. Dogs will be on the search for a new basketball coach. How much should that impact South Carolina?
Well, I mean, I think it all depends on what happens with South Carolina in the SEC tournament and in the NIT. Like, I thought, last week after, they won that game before, when I guess they beat, was it Mississippi State? They beat on Tuesday night at home. Was that it?
Yes.
That was the win.
Yep.
And then they lost at Auburn, which everybody knew they were going to do.
Oh, but maybe you're talking Missouri. It was
Missouri, that's right.
Alabama,
When they beat Missouri.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I know Frank Martin talked about how bad his eyes hurt watching Williams-Lebec. My eyes hurt really bad after watching that game, that Missouri game, because that was the ugliest freaking game maybe in the world. But they took care of business against Missouri. That got them, you know, guaranteed to 9-9 in SEC play. I thought that secured an NIT bid right now. They're, you know, predicted by the top, you know, the Joe Lenardi of the NIT to be a 4 seed in the NIT. But, you know, I talked to a couple of sources, one on Thursday night, one on Friday morning, and there's a school of thought that Frank Martin could still get fired because he's only been in the NCAA tournament one time in 10 years. And I think if you're Frank Martin, one, you better beat Mississippi State. Okay, you are the 7 seed, which I think is a great accomplishment for this team. They've shown great improvement. But let's face it, there's a lot of ill will and hard feelings on both sides of this deal. Okay, Darren, I know you talked about it earlier in the week. You know, I know Mike Yuba talked a lot about players. I mean, look, to me, the only 2 guys that have really negatively impacted South Carolina not getting from the state of South Carolina since Frank Martin's been the coach were the 2 guys that went 1 and 2 in the NBA draft, and one of them went to Murray State, and Frank Martin was the only Power 5 coach that offered him.
Yeah.
Ja Morant.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they did come close, you know, on Zion. But those are the only 2. I mean, that cat that went to Alabama and the dude that went to Ole Miss and all these other guys, the one that where'd he go to Texas and then transferred to Clemson. I mean, none of those. I mean, okay, Nick Claxton. Okay, but his dad played at Georgia. I mean, come on. That kid was always going to Georgia. I mean, that hadn't been what's hurt Frank Martin. Quite frankly, what's hurt him is he did not capitalize on going to the Final Four. He was going to get fired. He knew it. His agent knew it. They asked for time, and then they went working behind the scenes with politicians to set that thing up to scare the Board of Trustees and a mouth breather of a president before the state assembly out of not firing him so they could get the funding for the medical school. And Ray Tanner, Jamie, you know him a lot better than me, but he's probably got a long memory. And so I think Frank Martin's got to thread a needle by winning 1 game in the tournament, winning more than 1 game in the NIT, and getting G.G. Jackson, who will reclassify.
Yeah.
If all of that does not happen, I think South Carolina's making a change. And what's really sad is if you would have made the change last year, and it's not Frank Martin, okay? It's that Frank Martin is the coach at South Carolina that the Jackson family has a long-standing relationship with. It's not just because it's Frank Martin. Okay, if Keith Allsep would have been the coach at South Carolina for the last 4 years, it'd be Keith Allsep with the relationship, or Darren Goldwater, or Jamie, or Colin Taylor, okay? But certainly not Mike Yuva. They'd have no shot at getting that dude was
not these Yankees.
I kid, because that's my dude. But if South Carolina would have made a change last year, and let's say they would have hired the guy from UT Chattanooga, okay, then he has 2 years to recruit and build a relationship with the Jackson family. South Carolina and Frank, they're the only ones pushing for him to reclassify. Duke ain't pushing for him to reclassify because they got 6 dudes in their class, and a lot of them are 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", 6'11". North Carolina really haven't been pushing for him to reclassify. Only South Carolina, so Frank can save his job. And I'd be doing the same thing. And so would you, because
no doubt,
not a whole lot of jobs out there where you coach in one of the top 2 leagues in the country and get paid over $3 million a year to do it.
Oh, I would too. There's no question. I real quick, I just want to slip this in. Final minute here. I kind of, we've had a lot of conversations about Frank, so kind of want to wait and see what happens, and then we all know that everybody's going to really start talking about it. But the Georgia news caught me really interested today, because Georgia does not have a historically good basketball program. They've only been to the dance
I knew
school
a month ago Crean was getting fired.
Yeah, I mean
it's been a heavy rumor.
Yeah, with the writing's been on the wall. We've known it. It's just now that it's official. Isn't it something that we should monitor, right? Like closely? Like,
no, I agree, because if South Carolina makes a change and you both want the guy that's at Jacksonville who coached for Mike White, wherever he was before he went to Florida, and then he came to Florida with him, he's winning. The guy at UT Chattanooga is winning big. I mean, the only guy that you're not going to be in a bidding war for is Bob Ritchie, because he grew up a Gamecock fan in Florence. South Carolina is his dream job. I'm not saying I'm an advocate for hiring him, but I'm just saying there are going to be jobs that are going to be open. And you also, Frank Martin's buyout doesn't drop until after April 1st or on April 1st. So I don't think you're making a move prior to April 1st, not publicly, but I mean, I don't know if Ray Tanner knows for certain what he's going to do, but there's a lot of talk. And I really think Frank Martin, if he wants to come back next year, he better beat Mississippi State. He better win a couple of games at least in the NIT, and then they got to get G.G. Jackson to reclassify. And I think it's got to be all 3 of those things, or I think South Carolina's making a change.
That's kind of where I was coming from for the last week and maybe more. Just clearly there's friction. I don't know that as a fact, but clearly there is, and clearly he's out campaigning for his job. So he believes he's under the gun, and there's a lot of work left to be done. That's the only way to read, in my eyes, what I'm hearing and seeing come out of his mouth.
Yeah, I didn't ask you that earlier, and I'm sorry. I should have. It should have been the first thing I asked you. Do you agree with what Darren said based on what we've seen the last couple of days? Frank's time spent on Twitter and just some of the comments he's made. Do you agree with Darren? You think maybe publicly he is kind of in a backhanded way kind of campaigning for his future?
No, I think he is. He talked about how he didn't like how he was treated last year. Well, I mean, facts are facts. You had a lousy year. We can debate the COVID stuff all you want to, but there's another program that lives in the same dorms, shares the same practice facility, etc., and they didn't have any problems. Their coaching staff didn't have any problems. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, you can debate that all you want to or not, but I mean, that's just part of the equation.
Yeah.
I mean, that and completely failing, in my opinion, to capitalize on going to Final Four. But here's the thing, and I know I'm going over, but you got an all SEC freshman in Devin Carter. You got Taquan Woodley. I don't know about Jacoby Wright so much, but I love Josh Gray.
Absolutely.
I like the kid coming in from Denmark, Olar. Lindsey from Baltimore. If you get G.G. Jackson, from what I'm being told from guys very close to the program, from what they're being told, is that is going to set off a chain reaction of other guys across multiple sports, not just men's basketball, but multiple sports that are going immediately, and men's basketball will benefit the most, but there will be other guys other dominoes will fall. It'll be like tipping the first domino over, and then there will be multiple dominoes that will fall into place, and it could totally change the trajectory of the program. And if you're Ray Tanner, the bottom line is, are you willing to take a bite of a turd sandwich to do it?
Yeah.
I mean,
if
you're not willing to chew it and swallow it, then you're making a change. if you are willing to live with that one bite and moving on, then it could change the trajectory. Because look, Eric Stevenson, James Reese, even A.J. Wilson, these guys out of the portal, they love Frank Martin.
Absolutely.
They've had great experiences. You bring guys on campus and let them not talk to other dudes like, Devin Carter or others, but just the transfers. Those guys, yeah. I do think a lot of guys will automatically not choose to play for Frank Martin, but if the ones that are enticed enough to come to campus and talk to Eric Stevenson and James Reese, I think you'll get those guys.
Yeah, and Eric Stevenson has not closed the door on not returning either. I
don't really anticipate him, Cousinard, or
Keyshawn
coming back, because I think there'll be other professional opportunities other than G League.
Yeah.
Clearly you don't want to go to Russia and play in that league, but
I don't think you're going there. No.
Yeah.
No.
By the way, free Brittany Griner. Screw you, Vladimir Putin. Suck it.
Yeah. Keith, we got to let you run on that note, man. But as always, it has been a pleasure. And here we go. Hoop season.
Here we go.
March Madness is in full swing.
To be determined. TBD. That's what it is.
It's I feel like it's been like this for about 6 years.
Yep.
That's why I've used the term basketball purgatory a lot.
Here we are. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, Keith. Thank you so
guys.
much.
You too. Happy birthday to your wife.
Thank you.
Jamie, don't wait around to the last minute.
No, I'm good. I just got to get the cake. That's all.
All right. Go pick up that cake. Y'all have a great time. Darren, hopefully before you and I die, we'll be able to talk about the Braves and Nationals playing again.
That'd be nice. Be really nice.
Right now, Braves are world champions forever, baby.
Yeah. If they cancel the sport, they go out on top. They'll be what everybody remembers, no doubt. Best team in the history of the sport.
Jorge Soler launching one into another stratosphere.
Yeah. God, ball hadn't landed. See ya. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
There you go. Keith Allsep with the Locked on the Gamecocks podcast here in overtime. JB and Goldwater overtime. Palmetto Group Insurance presents the JB and Goldwater show today, owned by Jamie Richardson. If you like me, you'll like him. Some of the best stuff I've seen in the insurance business. He is sharp as a tack. Palmetto Group Insurance. He's on the app. Make sure you've got the app downloaded. It's in the top prospects section. Need a quote? Just get a quote. No pressure. Easy. Easy. All right, Darren. JC tomorrow. Middle of the week. Here comes the rain. Yippee-ki-yo-ki. Got a new patio poured, so I'm having to get it all ready to go before this monsoon rolls.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. Thanks to Mike and Keith. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Tuesday at the Dog and Duck, and we'll see you tomorrow at noon on the JB and Goldwater Show.